Welcome back to the Mindshift Special Ed channel, your dedicated resource for everything related to special education. My name is Dean and I'm joined by Ms. Till, a dedicated general education teacher with several years of experience who has worked closely, effectively with students of all abilities and collaborating with special education teachers to create inclusive learning environment. In today's discussion, we are going to explore the critical role general education teachers play in supporting students with disabilities to meet their learning needs. Mr. You're welcome to the Mindshift Special Ed studio.
Thank you so much.
All right. If you don't mind, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey as a general education teacher?
Yeah, so I have been teaching for 19 years.
Oh.
I've taught world geography, world history, and United States history.
There was some time that I heard that you have been awarded with or appointed some position.
Oh, yes. Last summer, I was appointed to the South Carolina Council on the Holocaust.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's great. So to start with the discussion, I have worked with you for about 2 years now, and I know how you have worked actively and effectively to make sure that you were able to make changes in students' life as far as teaching and learning is concerned. All right, so if you don't mind, can you share with us how you differentiate your instructions to meet the diverse needs of students, especially when it comes to students that are having varying abilities in the same class?
I think it's important to have a good relationship with their academic support teacher, for one.
Okay.
And to build a relationship with the students so that you know what works best for them.
Okay.
So we're provided with accommodations from the academic support teacher, which kind of helps guide us in the direction on how to best meet the needs of the student.
Okay.
But getting to know the student on a personal level also helps. So as you build your relationships with your students, you come to learn what is going to benefit them the most in the classroom.
Okay.
So some things I do, if I know a student likes to draw, for example,
Okay.
then give them options on how they do their work. So if you're working on a project, instead of having them write an essay,
Okay.
have them do a drawing with a shorter writing assignment. So that's one example of an accommodation. And then, like I said, you work closely with their support teacher, their academic support teacher, to come up with and build some other ideas.
Yeah.
But getting to know the student, I think, is very, very important in the process.
That is very true. Yeah, getting to know the student is actually very important because they will even feel comfortable to come up with the best strategies or accommodations, just as you rightly said earlier, that will be beneficial to them.
Right.
Yeah, and that is very good. But getting to know the student is really important. And when you get to know the student, they feel comfortable to come up with the best ideas or the best strategies, let me put it that way, that may be of beneficial to them. You know, sometimes students will just approach me as a special education teacher and say, Mr. Dean, if you try your best to do this or that, that will be very beneficial. And I think, as you rightly said, getting to know the students is very important. Yeah, so are there other ways that when it comes to the accommodation aspect, after getting the students' accommodations from the academic support teachers, are there other special accommodations that you yourself as a general education teacher will put in place to help the students progress in your class?
Well, I think, like with preferential seating, for example, that
Okay.
may be an example of an accommodation that's listed.
Okay.
But I think that can be interpreted differently than what's on the accommodation. And this is something you and I spoke about earlier in the semester.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the accommodations on one of our students that we share.
Okay.
But preferential seating for him is not necessarily sitting at the front of the room,
Exactly.
like near my seat. He's actually sitting halfway back, but he's on an aisle seat where when I walk,
Okay.
I can use proximity where I'm closer to him, and it works better for him
Okay.
because he likes to put his head down and take morning naps. So that proximity helps him because I move throughout my class and I can stand closer to him. So I think sometimes the accommodations that are listed can be interpreted based on what the needs are for your individual students in the class.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so this is a classroom that you have students with learning disabilities and those without learning disabilities. So how do you educate the general education students so that they will understand the diversity amongst their colleagues, or they will understand that, okay, the fact that their colleagues are having learning disability does not mean that they should be discriminated or they should be stigmatized. So how do you educate them to understand that so that they can accept them, so that there will be some kind of inclusivity in your classroom?
Right. Well, I don't openly say who has accommodations. You know, we don't want to openly, make students feel like they're being labeled.
Sure.
But like we mentioned earlier, I was appointed to the South County Council on the Holocaust. So one area that I've focused a lot of my professional development and the majority of my 19 years professionally on is Holocaust education.
Okay.
So one thing that we've learned just by studying the Holocaust and a lot of historical events is the danger of stigmatizing and stereotyping.
Okay.
So those are lessons that we can bring into our classroom, and it's got a universal language and a universal a universal message for students to receive. So the lessons we learn from history and that can be taught through a historical context has universal meaning without the students themselves feeling like they are the lesson or being used, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes
so,
sense.
I tell the students, and I tell everyone, like with any activity that we do, history is a lot of discussion, and we have lots of discussions in class, and I want everyone to know that they all have their own personal opinion.
Okay.
And everybody has the right to have an opinion.
That's true.
So when you have a discussion in class, I want everybody to be involved. And this is a discussion that we have and something I articulate to the students as far as what's expected for a discussion.
Okay.
Number one, you are entitled to your opinion. You need to respect the opinion of other people, even if you don't agree with it.
That's true.
So this is part of building that culture of respect.
Okay.
Even if you don't agree with what the other people are saying.
Yeah.
You respect other people enough to allow them to have their own opinion, listen to the opinion of what they have, and you can learn a lot about where people are coming from, where their mindsets are, and learn about who they are as people.
So when you put all these things in place, it's like basically you are building an inclusive classroom culture in your classroom to make sure that every student feels comfortable to share his or her opinion, and there will definitely be inclusivity in your classroom. That's very true. Yeah.
I hope so. That is the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal, and I think that's what you have been doing. That's what you've been doing, because most of the students feel comfortable being in your classroom and then sharing their opinion and all those kind of stuff. Yeah, and that is actually what is making them feel comfortable, because there is inclusivity in your classroom.
Right.
Yeah. So can you share with us how you measure or track the progress of students in your classroom? This happens to be a class that you have students with disabilities and those without disabilities, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you track and measure each and every student's progress in your classroom?
Right. I think it's important to have summative and formative assessments.
Okay.
But one thing that I've used over the course of the last few years is I have what I call student-teacher conferences.
Okay.
So I have a form that I have conjured up, and I will have one-on-one conferences with the students.
Okay.
So we talk about their progress, and I have them tell me what their struggles are.
Okay.
The student sets a goal, and they sign. It's almost like a contract also, but they sign it and they date it, and we try to do that a couple times throughout the semester. That way it also puts some sort of accountability on the student for that as well, but they're coming up with their own goals, and they are acknowledging what they need to do to be successful in the class.
Okay. So this is basically setting the goals with them, is actually putting them on track for them to know what they are working towards.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, and that's good. I think that strategy is very nice, and I will start doing that as well.
Right.
Okay. So do you have a special way that you do that differentiate from the general education students, or this is just for all the students those with disabilities and those without disabilities?
Well, I use that for all of my students.
Okay.
But I think the way the conference takes place will sound different and will look different.
Oh, okay.
I think that our goal is to make sure every student is successful at the end of the
That is
day.
the goal.
And
That's the
every
goal.
student feels successful at the end of the day.
Sure.
But success looks different for each student.
Exactly.
So our students who are coming through an academic support teacher,
Okay.
they're going to have different goals.
That's true.
Now, I'm not saying that their goals should be held to a lower standard
Okay.
by any means, but they should be encouraged differently, perhaps.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's also about having the student recognize
Okay.
what their strengths are. Having any student, whether it's general ed or someone in the special ed department,
Okay.
anyone needs to recognize what their strengths are. More so, and I mean, you need to know your weaknesses.
That's true.
But let's focus on the strengths.
Okay.
Because I think if you can realize and recognize your strengths, that's one way of building up your confidence.
Mhm.
And some of our students need that much more than
Okay.
other students.
Yeah, that's true.
So we need to make sure students can recognize that within themselves.
What are some of the challenges that you encounter in providing your support to students with disabilities, and how do you overcome those challenges?
It takes a village.
Oh.
That's what they say, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like raising a kid. It takes a village to raise a child. Well, to educate a student, sometimes it takes a village.
Okay.
And it is, it's great to have great colleagues to work with. It's great to have great teachers to collaborate with.
Okay.
And that's necessary
Very,
because
very
you can't carry everything by yourself.
no.
So when you have academic support teachers who you can rely on,
Okay.
that's invaluable.
Okay.
And one thing, like within the history department where I am,
Okay.
we have teachers who've been there 20 years and we have brand new teachers.
Okay.
And everybody brings a unique perspective. And I really like our newer teachers because they bring such a fresh perspective.
Okay.
So everyone brings value to the table.
That's
And
great.
understanding that you do not have all the answers to yourself and that you need to sometimes talk to other people and to get other ideas from
Yes.
people.
Okay.
I think we all need to realize that it takes a village.
That's good. Thank you very much. And we're glad to have you.
I appreciate the opportunity to come in. I really do. And I appreciate what you do every day for our students
Okay.
and for our staff.
All right.
You are truly appreciated. So thank you.
All right, and thank you to you have been a great general education teacher that I've actually collaborated with, and most of my students have been showing their appreciation and then how they are expressing their feelings, and then also how you are actually helping them to excel, and I really like that. Thank you very much, and please subscribe to the Mindshare Special Ed channel to stay connected for topics like this. Thank you.